If you're a die-hard fan of racing, you'd notice that there are many complicated rules on and off the track. It's not as simple as the racing scenes in Cars, where Lightning McQueen, a NASCAR, literally raced an F1 car in a dirt track. All these rules kind of surprised me when I first got into motorsport, especially Formula 1. Most of them were made for good reasons, or at least good intentions. But there are also rules that are somewhat controversial and got the fans of the sport fuming. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through my personal 5 most ridiculous rules ever in motorsports, from NASCAR to Formula E, all the way to Formula 1. And if you're new here, this is Torca House. We talk about everything that has wheels and can race. Hit the subscribe button if you want our videos to annoyingly pop up the next time you accidentally open YouTube. Let's start off slowly with Formula E, where race car sounds like angry Dyson hairdryer. In 2014, right from the inaugural Formula E season, the FIA and the Formula E holdings introduced something that would help e-racing become more interactive to fans. Yes, I'm talking about Fan Boost. If you remember the start of this disaster, you're probably old enough to have at least 2 wives by now. Now let me paint the picture for you. It's the middle of a high-stakes race. The cars are battling it out for the lead, and suddenly, a fan vote decides that 3 lucky drivers gets an extra boost of power for a limited time. Sounds insane, right? But that's exactly what happened. Since 2014, Formula E fans could vote for their favorite driver, and the top 3 drivers would receive an extra 100 kilojoules of energy. That's about 25 extra horsepower, or roughly 10% more power for around 5 seconds. In Formula E, where races are tight and every second really counts, this boost could make or break a driver's position. Now you might be wondering, how is this fair? Well, it's not, really. For me, this was a crime. Imagine you've been busting your ass all the race, but the guy behind you has a nice smile and is more popular on Twitter, so his car suddenly turns into an F-16 for a few seconds. That's enough for any racer to consider quitting his racing career. I'm glad Daniel Ricciardo does not have to put up with this.
In a row that he's been out-qualified by his teammate Max Verstappen, and there was absolutely nothing he could do today. Exactly.
But to be fair, Fan Boost also brought us some exciting moment in the race. Like this overtake from Lucas de Grassi in Mexico, Ypres Season 2.
And D'Ambrosio covers the inside line, and de Grassi still tries to look to the inside line, so close between them. De Grassi locks up, manages to get it stopped in time, and takes the lead of the Mexico Ypres.
One might argue that Fan Boost is just like DRS, but only available to 3 drivers and is freely used anywhere. That's what makes it unfair and unsafe. Some drivers, and plenty of fans, called out Fan Boost, saying it took away from the real spirit of racing. Daniel Abt, driver of Audi back then, said early in 2018 that he was fed up to the back teeth of the Fan Boost system and alleging there are some drivers who managed to cheat a bit in posts on his social media platforms. I'm not saying it because I'm a sore loser, I'm saying it because I know it. Somebody told me about it. Definitely there's something wrong. Strangely, all the votes are from 12 cities in China, so they must have an awesome fan base there. Formula E knows about it, but they can't do anything because they cannot prove it properly. After a few years, under heavy criticism from fans and doubts about its integrity, Formula E decided to drop Fan Boost in the end of 2022. Needless to say, now we can finally take Formula E serious. Personally, I think the idea was interesting and made the sport more interactive. But if it comes at the cost of fairness between drivers on the track, I don't think it's a good idea. I think it is just ridiculous. Enough of Formula E. Now it's time for the real deal. I'm talking about Formula 1, the gem on the crown that every racing driver dreams of. Let's travel back in time to 2014. Formula 1 and FIA decided that the final race of the season, the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, would award double points. That's right. Instead of 25 points for a win, the winner got 50. Why? Because they wanted to make the championship more exciting and avoid boring finales where the champion was decided early. But was it a good idea? Absolutely not. It completely devalued consistency across the whole season and turned the final race into a massive lottery. Even though it didn't go as planned, Lewis Hamilton at that time was leading the season with 17 points ahead of the second place, Nico Rosberg. Despite Rosberg's magnificent performance in the qualifying round and got himself the pole position, Lewis Hamilton was right behind him in the second place on the grid. His chances are slim, and things got worse as Rosberg suffered an ERS failure and dropped out of the points during the race. This, however, would not make a difference, as Nico acknowledged himself that Hamilton would have had to finish third or lower for him to have a chance of winning the title anyway. Fortunately, after massive backlash from fans, media, and drivers, including Lewis Hamilton and Sebastian Vettel, this rule was scrapped after just one season. In fact, the system was universally condemned within the series before the race, worse even by Rosberg. "I find it artificial, and I don't like it in general," Rosberg said. "Of course now, with the way it is, it's great for me at the moment, but you know that's just because of the situation." Imagine working your tail off for 18 races, just to have it all decided by a coin toss in the final one. This rule was scrapped after just one season, and thank God for that. Okay, now we get to something brutal. In Formula 1 today, after every qualifying session and race, cars must have at least 1 liter of fuel left in the tank. Why? So FIA officials can take a sample to check for legal fuel mixtures. The rule that says if you don't have enough fuel left in your car after the race, you get disqualified. Yeah, you heard that right. Even if you cross the finish line first, you could be kicked out of the race if there's not enough gas in the tank. It's actually not that ridiculous. This rule stings because it's a technicality, and everybody hates technicality. Also, it's happened more times than you think. Most famously in 2012, Lewis Hamilton took pole position at the Spanish Grand Prix, but McLaren told him to stop the car on track to save fuel, and it turned out he didn't have enough left. He got excluded from qualifying entirely. It also happened to Sebastian Vettel at the 2021 Hungarian Grand Prix. He finished P2, only to be disqualified hours later. This rule, while keeping the sport's regulations tight and focused on efficiency, also shows how harsh F1 can be. Sure, it keeps teams honest, but it's definitely a ridiculous rule when you think about it. You've done everything right on track, but one tiny technicality in the post-race checks, and you're out. Alright, let's go back in time a bit. Same race, Formula 1, 70, 80 years ago, way back before 1958. You're probably wondering, what on earth is car swapping? Well, get this. If a driver's car broke down in the middle of a race, they could literally jump into their teammate's car and continue racing. And no, I'm not making this up. You could hijack your teammate's car mid-race and keep going as if nothing happened. This wasn't a one-off thing either. In fact, Juan Fangio, one of the greatest F1 drivers of all time, swapped cars twice in the 1955 Argentine Grand Prix to stay in the race. Imagine Max Verstappen losing his engine and run to Tsunoda's car and took it off like nothing happened.
Are you alright, Max? Yeah, all good.
This rule was eventually banned in 1958 to ensure that racing was more about individual skill, but looking back at it now, it's one of the craziest things F1's ever allowed. Last but definitely not least, let's travel further up to the west, to the land of V8 engines, McDonald's, and NASCAR. Now normally in pit stops, teams have strict rules about how many people are allowed over the wall during a stop. But here's the kicker. If one extra person crosses that line, just one, it could result in a penalty. Kyle Busch was arguably one of the drivers hit hardest by this rule. He's notorious for getting pit stop penalties. In the 2015 Dover Xfinity Series race, one of Busch's crew members stepped over the wall too soon. NASCAR issued a penalty that dropped him down the order, despite his dominant pace. This rule was more or less fair, but it is just incredibly strict. There's literally a team of observers armed with high-res cameras only to spot the sixth team member stepping a foot out into the pit lane. Technicality is arguably and slowly killing the sport, or evolving it for the better good.
Alright guys, go ahead. that's going to be a huge penalty time-wise. Still trying to keep their composure and going to work is Casey Kane's number 95 team. Around to the left side. This is going to be a huge time penalty for these guys, having to back up like that. Tape off the grill. Nope, just to clean the grill.
So there you have it. 5 of the most ridiculous racing rules ever written. Most of them were made for good reason, or at least good intentions. But as you can see, they didn't always work out so well. Of course, this is my personal opinion. You may agree or disagree with it. Give us your thoughts down below about it, and is there any absurd rule that I've missed? Share it with us, and I'll give you my thoughts about them. And for now, this is Torque House, where speed meets stories. See you in the next lap.
To try and avoid as you feed the power in. Heavy braking for turn 11. Back off the oval, there's another hinge point in the circuit as he changes a map. Oh, there's through the yellow zone with Alexander Sen.